Now we've just ducked around the other side. What I want to remove here is this whole power steering pump assembly. That way I don't need to disconnect any of the lines or anything like that. So I'll just pop that belt out of the way. So with the belt gone, we can see we've got one bolt in here and there's another bolt in that comes in up on the back side. It looks like it's a 14 mil. So it's a bolt with a spring washer. Now there's pretty good access coming up from behind, but just make sure you're actually getting the bolt that's securing it to the block and not just one of the bolts for the back of the pump itself. Now the other thing you might need to do just to get enough access is just bend the heat shield just a fraction on that rear exhaust. Now I used a socket, just a small socket with a small sort of wrench. Just take the weight of this and run it out with my fingers. That rear bolt, it's exactly the same as the front bolt. And with those two free, this can now just sort of hang here. And when we pull the engine out, look, it's just going to sit there, no issues at all. So it came up through there, and it just was a little bit of limited access because of this tinware next to this exhaust manifold here. Now, as a bit of an interesting note, there's a nice big access hole up through the suspension arm to reach up this way, and then I reached up on the other side. So there's plenty of access, it's just kind of hard to see. So I've gone around the engine a couple of times, I've checked that there's no other sort of plugs or connectors, so I'm just going to start working on this front engine mount. Now there's a bolt that comes up from underneath here. Now I want to remove this whole mount here, just so that when I slide this engine forward that it's not going to be in the way. So there's a 16 mil bolt that comes up from underneath. Just a short little one like that. And we've got these two on the front here. So the rear one was a short one, two front ones are a longer one. And then I'm just going to take this one off the side as well. Now you would have noticed the engine just rocked a little bit as we pulled it out, that's fine. We'll just keep that aside. Now while we're over at this space as well, I'm just going to remove the vacuum line for the brakes. Now this is a hard line in here, like a metal line, and we've got a little rubber line here. Just got to take the clamps off both ends of the rubber line just so I've got enough movement here. I just don't want to break it on this plastic manifold. Now look, I did find it easier to get it off that end than this end. It's just a little bit too tight on there. And those things are really sharp. As we're nearly at the point of pulling this engine and transmission out, it's a good time to undo my fuel lines. I like to keep them right towards the end, just so it doesn't stink like fuel. So this is a vent line. Won't really have anything exciting once this one comes off. Just crack it loose on that. It's seeming to be a little tight. Pull that one off. So get it out of the way. Now just go slow when you crack this off because look, there's going to be a little bit of fuel comes out. So we'll just cover it all up. A little 10 mil on the underside as well. So I'm going to drop the nut, we'll find where that's gone. A little bit of fuel running out. And that nut has dropped down somewhere that I will probably never find while I'm up here. Who knows where it's gone. I might be lucky just with a magnetic tool, but yes, look at that. So now our two fuel lines are disconnected. We can kind of just pop them off to the side somewhere here. Should really block them up, we'll do that later. Now, something I had forgotten about was the shift linkage. Let me just move some of these things out of the way. So we've got the shift linkage here. These keys are pretty good. There's a little hole here that can just line up when it's in park, so it just makes it really easy to locate this to put it back in the right position, because there's a little bit of adjustability on it. But you can see the marks from where the bolt was anyway. It's not going to be a problem getting that line back up. Okay, now where it's located onto here, it's got these little springy clips. They just hold it on tight, so if you just give it a little bit of a wiggle on both sides, you should be able to pop that up and out of its clip. Again, I'm just going to push that off to the side as well so it keeps out of my way. Now I'm going to lift this from 2 points here, one over here and one off this engine mount here, so I'm hoping it's going to keep things fairly balanced. Before I can take these engine mounts off, I do just want to give it a bit of a lift. So I'm just going to run a chain through here, and I'm going to use an engine leveler that'll sit, I don't know, about there somehow. Just sit that up in there. On this engine mount here, I'm just going to take this one bolt off. There's still two other bolts that secure things. And I'm going to use it to hold the chain. I'll bring that chain in and just run it in this way. Do that up firm. And I want this to sit about here, so we'll just loop this in. Okay, so we're just going to connect up this engine crane, and I'm just going to start lifting it up a little bit and just take a bit of the weight of the engine. Now, it goes without saying, make sure your chains and stuff are definitely up to the task. Now, it's definitely going to be leaking a bit more coolant as we lift this up, because it's going to be now on a different angle. And for the life of me, I cannot find where I put the transmission drain plug. So I'm still dripping some transmission fluid as we go. That is a real pain. I've spent some time looking for it. I don't know, it's gone. So I'm just going to zip this mount out of this one, just push that pipe aside. Just give it a little bit more of a lift to see if it comes up off there. Okay, so we're definitely getting it up off that one. So I'm now just going to take off these three bolts here. And the rear one's a little bit harder to get to. And there's a cheeky 14mm that's just hiding in under the front face here. What I will actually do is I'm going to throw another one back in, because as I undo this one here, it's just pulling up on that engine mount a little bit. And it's just going to wedge that bolt in. Okay, it's exactly like the other ones that came out from the top. And we can pull this one again. And to give myself some more room, I'm going to undo this bolt here. Now, a bit hard to see on camera, but there is a metal part of this bracket that sits under there, so the chain is actually going underneath that. It's not actually against this part here at all. So I'm safe to remove this. Let's just get that all up and out of the way. So at this point now, I just want to lift it up a little bit just to make sure I get it off these engine mounts. Okay, I just want to make sure over here that it's coming up off that bolt there. We're not exactly balanced, but we're pretty close. I might just give this a bit of a yank forward. Just double checking that we're not caught up on anything. Now, although I can lift this mount up off here, I am just going to undo these 3 bolts here to this other engine mount. Now what that means is I can just kind of wiggle this a whole lot better and just see if I can get this out without having to lift the engine more. And what I have noticed is just in here I've missed another earth lead. So we'll be looking at a 10mm onto the block. There's probably going to be a couple others that I've missed along the way. There we go, it's just choosing to hang on. Let's see if I can wiggle this completely out of the way. No, it's staying in there for now. Now I would suggest doing a couple of more final checks just to make sure that everything is out of the way. Just going to move this condenser off to the side. Off that rear mount. Try and catch the rest of that fluid. Just make sure no electrical cables get caught up or broken as you go. So something we missed is a power steering line. Comes up here, does a little loop. That's sitting with 2 10mm bolts on the back of the intake manifold. So with it removed to this point, it's actually pretty easy to get these. Just loosen them both off. Bolt number 1, it's just a typical 10mm bolt. I am just a bit concerned there's a bit of tension on this hose, so I don't want anything just to move too much as soon as it comes undone. Yeah, drop in my socket. That's the second one, they're both the same. Now that pipe can just move off. And double check, we are completely free back there. Okay, now that everything is triple checked, everything feels pretty free. I might just go a little bit higher. I just want to make sure the sump clears things here. And I might even come out a little bit crooked. Let's see how we go, because I just have to clear this mess here. Let's just inch it back and see what happens. Just to clear that completely, we're going to go a bit higher. Hey, another thing, power steering seems to be the thing today. We forgot the line. There's also a plug here that goes on the back of the power steering pump. Needed to get that off as well. Okay, let's just keep slowly inching this out. Okay, and with that we now have the engine out.